Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about a show I used to watch back when I was younger. A show that I actually forgot all about, and I wonder if I made it up in my head and if it even existed. So I looked online, and I couldn't remember his name, so I tried to type in a description on Google, and then I finally found it. And that show is called The Puzzle Place. It was a show on PBS Kids, and it ran from, let's see, 3 seasons from 1995 to 1998, and a total of 75 episodes. Now, this show was really, really special. It was so popular that it was like one of the most popular shows next to Sesame Street. And Sesame Street is a big, big thing that's been on for decades. But this show only lasted for 3. And then in 2000, they used to run like reruns and stuff like that. And then in 2000, it got replaced by a show called Between the Lions. The Puzzle Place was an extremely unique show that followed a group of preteens. This show was geared for both kids and preteens, but yeah, it followed a group of preteens that were multiracial and everything. It was a show that was considered woke before woke was even a term. Like, this show was ahead of its time. And the thing about this show, they would teach you all kind of life lessons from these kids being like little preteens and growing up. It taught them about the gift of respecting other people's cultures. It taught them how to share. It taught them if you're afraid of something, how you overcome it. It taught you racism. Yes, a little PBS show taught you about racism and sexism, and it taught you about the cultures of other races and why people celebrate them and respect them. This show was just insanely ahead of its time. The only problem with this show is that I wish it had actual real kids playing these characters, but instead it was little puppets. Now, one of my favorite characters on this show was Sky, a little Native American kid from the White Mountain Apache tribe, and he's that of Native American descent. He was like a really cool, chill character. He's a little sarcastic and to pull jokes on people, but he's the type of person that respects other people's cultures and his culture, especially. He has a high appreciation of that. He has shaggy black hair. He always wore a bandana, a yellow raincoat for some reason, and he always wore a necklace with a feather on it. Leon is a black kid of West African descent, and he loves to play basketball. He loves rap music. Sadly, he's a little bit of a stereotype. He is the jealous one of the group. He is the cranky one in the group, and he's a little bit of a mean kid, which, is kind of, he's nice, but he's just very selfish. And that's something that's a huge stereotype of most black kids. But like I said before, stereotypes are based on fact, because there are people that are like that. But not just black people, there's other people as well. Ben always looked like Billy from Power Rangers to me. He was a white character of German and Norwegian descent, but he was Scandinavian. He lived on a farm, and he would use some type of country type slang. He was a nice kid. He was always helpful. If somebody was having a problem, he would be the one who would try to fix it. He felt like it was his thing and stuff. He was very friendly, and he wore glasses. Now, other than being nice and friendly, yeah, if you do him wrong, ooh boy, he would get pissed off. Now, we find out with Ben that his dad has actually passed away, and he only lives with his mom, which is so sad. Julie was a Chinese kid. She was a that, and they're all American, but they're from like their races from like other cultures and countries. So yeah, she was just sweet as sugar. Like she was kind, she was caring, she loved to sing and dance. Kiki, she was the Mexican American girl. Boy, Kiki had some sass to it. That girl was, she was nice, but she was the rude one of the group. She was the mean one. She was the hot-tempered one. Like she would kind of always be the one who kind of like rush the judgment and everything. Now, the sad thing about Kiki is that growing up, she felt ashamed of her accent because she has a strong Mexican accent. And when the kids would pick on her, she would just tell the kids that simply she's an alien and stuff because she was ashamed of her accent. And that's very sad. Like, little kids can be so mean and hurtful. Heck, even adults can be mean and hurtful. And the thing about shows like this, it's supposed to teach people to better themselves in life. And sadly, a lot of people still to this day do not and still feel the need to like judge people and pick on people. Jody, she was the Jewish girl of the group. She had curly reddish brown hair. She was sweet, very gullible. Like, my God, you could trick this girl very easily. And both her parents are divorced, which is something you really don't see in like a kid's show. But yeah, they actually like let you straight up know that her parents are divorced and stuff. Now she is the type who doesn't like when people um call you like mean names and stuff. She hates being picked on and bullied. Now, the reason why this show is called The Puzzle Place is because these group of little preteens will hang out at this little calf type place called like the puzzle place, and they would have like puzzles. But strangely enough, you'll never see nobody else really hang out at this place except for them. And this place always looked like a house to me, and it even had a basement. Now Nuzzle and Sizzle, they're like these little dog and cat. And they're there for like, the kid audience that's watching the show. They do all the silly, goofy stuff while the kids do all the more educational stuff. And Sizzle and Nuzzle, they would hang out in the basement a lot and they would talk to each other. However, when they'll be around the kids, they would act just like a normal cat and dog. There was the peace police, but I don't remember nothing about them. I just remember they were little cops that were like buzzed around the show every now and then for like little kids and enjoyment and stuff. But when I said this show was very educational, like you will learn stuff in here that you would never learn in school. And for the most part, even when you would talk and hang out with your friends that were like other races and culture, you really rarely ever hear them talk about their race and culture because for the most part they don't even know about their culture. Like I grew up around two Jewish girls next door, and I didn't know nothing about Jewish people whatsoever because they didn't even know themselves, and their parents didn't really taught them nothing. And if they did, they just never told me and stuff. I remember there was a sharing episode where they all wanted pizza, but instead of ordering out, I think they was like low on cash or something like that, because kids don't got money. So Leon's all like, "Hey, I know how to make pizza, so I'll make pizza for everybody." So he spends the entire episode making pizza, and then in the entire episode we learn about other pizzas from other cultures and stuff. And I remember, like in the episode, they kept arguing about what they wanted for toppings. They couldn't figure out what they wanted because everybody wanted a different topping. So throughout the entire episode, Leon had a brilliant idea. Why not everybody just gets one slice of pizza, and on that one slice of pizza, he'll put whatever topping those characters wanted, and that way everybody got what they wanted. They didn't get like a full pizza, nothing like that, in multiple slices, but at least they got a little bit of something they wanted. And that's a nice little sharing moment, you know. Instead of people constantly arguing and bickering over one thing they want, they can just like divide things and just get like a little piece of like enjoyment. Now there's this one episode with Kiki, and she's at like this rec center, and she's hanging out with a bunch of kids, and she's playing games, and there's this one girl that she knows, and she's trying to talk to somebody else, and the other girl will not answer her, and this pisses Kiki off, but Kiki gets mad. And so she goes back to the puzzle place, and she doesn't understand why this girl won't talk to her, and why this girl is like disrespecting her and stuff like that. So then she goes back and she talks to her other friend that knows that girl, and she asks her, "Yo, well, what's up? Why this girl won't talk to me and stuff?" Basically, the girl that won't talk to Kiki has no idea that Kiki's even talking to her because the girl is deaf. And Kiki doesn't understand really what deaf is about, so the girl explains to her. And Kiki is kind of like mortified with herself because now she feels, oh no, I misjudged this whole situation. And so they explain to Kiki, what deafness is and how some people get it, and also about sign language. And Kiki, she wants to learn sign language now because she wants to be able to talk to this little girl. And then, so when the girl does finally talk to her, she tells her, oh, she didn't mean to be disrespectful. She just couldn't hear her and stuff. And I'm just like, how often when you see that in any type of television program, you don't see that in adult TV, teen dramas. You don't even see that in kids shows. And it's just, this is a PBS kids show of all things, and you're seeing this. Now, there's a really interesting episode where Leon, he's only like 11 or 12 years old, and he wants to go to the museum, but he wants to go by himself. But his parents won't let him because they say he's not a grown up and he shouldn't be walking the streets by himself and being in a building by himself around like strangers and stuff. He gets upset and furious because he thinks, well, I've been there hundreds of times with my parents. Why can't I go? And he badly wants to be an adult. And to the point where the other kid starts telling him about like, in their culture, little teen kids go through ceremonies where they are still teenagers, but they feel like adults in those ceremonies. And it was in that moment in time I started to really learn about other cultures, things I've never heard of before. And I was very shocked and amazed. Kiki explained that in Mexican cultures, 15-year-old girls have something called, I'm about to butcher this because I have a hard time pronouncing certain words, and especially like Hispanic and other cultural words. So, quinceanera, no crap. I told you. Quinceanera. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. The little 15-year-old girl like celebration where she becomes a woman. I am not Hispanic. My tongue doesn't roll that way. I can't pronounce it, but you know what I'm talking about. I'll type the word out. Let's see if I can say it again. Quinceanera. No, you know what? You pronounce it. I'll just listen and watch. But yeah, and then the thing about this show is that when they will talk about the other cultures and the other experiences, they do cutscenes to real life footage, which is amazing because why hear about it when you can actually see it? And we've all seen that on that little celebration from 15-year-old Hispanic girls. We see it just pretty much in every show there is that has like a main Latino character. We see it. I saw it on Wizards of Waverly Place. I saw it on Superstore. I know I saw it someplace else, but I can't remember what it was. It might have been Desperate Housewives or something. But yeah, it's just like a celebration where the little girl, she's with her family and her friends. They dress up in very lovely clothes. They have amazing food, and there's lots of music and dancing. And the girl is literally just like the center of attention. And it makes her feel so good and like uplifted that, it's part of her becoming like a woman and everything. It's that transition in life. Now, Jody, she tells him about the Jewish celebration when a lot of young kids become in their adulthood. And one term I have heard of, but the other term I've never heard of before. I didn't even know that females go through this. Because every time you would see this on TV about little Jewish boys, like you always knew they have a bar mitzvah and everything. And like you've always seen that in so many shows, so many movies. But I never knew the females had it. Now, once again, I'm not gonna be able to pronounce it. And I've never even heard the term bar mitzvah, and I'm just like, I've never heard of that before. Like, never. I've never heard of that in my entire life, and never seen it on another TV show. No. Yes, I have now. I saw it 3 years ago on a show called Being Erica. It's a Canadian show about a Jewish woman. That was the only other time I've ever heard about that, other than back in the late 90s when I first heard about it on this little kid show. Other than that, I've never heard of it. And of course, we all know what happened in the bar mitzvah. The celebration, you dress up in nice clothes, the Jewish boys. I think, do they put them in a chair and lift them over their head and walk around the room? I think they do. Um, and and there's another part that happens in it, which I don't want to explain because, well, yeah. But it's a good time for people to, respect their cultures and their people. And it's just a celebration. And it makes you feel special. It's like your birthday and stuff. And a lot of American cultures, they don't have that. Like, you just have to wait till you're 18 to become an adult. And then you have to wait till 21 to do other stuff. And in that episode, Leon is just imagining what it would be like to be an adult, man. Like he talking about how he'll like drive a car and how he'll go here and go there. And he decides, you know what? I'm gonna have my own little celebration. I'm gonna make one up. And the kids gonna help him out. So they dress up in their Sunday best. They give him a celebration. And now he's all like, you know what? I'm a man now. So you can start calling me Mister. And that's what they do. And so he tries to go to the museum by himself, and they're all like, you're just a kid, you have to leave. And he's all like, he don't understand. He had his celebration, why isn't he an adult? And then so he decides to go to the movies by himself. Once again, he's not allowed to go because it's not rated for his age. And he's not understanding. He literally now thinks he's an adult because he had that celebration. But that's not how it works. You don't actually become an adult. You just are transitioning to the process of being one, but it still takes years and stuff. And so then as he's like at the puzzle place, the other kids are like bugging him about stuff because they want him to do adult stuff. They want him to take them to the movies. They want them to drive him around. He's all like, I can't drive you around. I don't have a car or a license. And they're like, but you're an adult. You're supposed to have those. And so he's not truly understanding the whole process mind of what it is to be an adult. But he is quickly now learning that it takes time and you have to learn certain skills and stuff to be an adult. And it's a great teaching lesson. And then he has the discussion with this actor because he wants to learn about a little bit more about what it is to be an adult and stuff. Then there's my favorite episode, the bread episode. When I was growing up, I always assumed bread was just like, the stuff you buy at the store. It's what's her name? The Asian girl, Julie, I think it is. Yeah, Julie, me and her had the same idea of what bread was. You go in the store, it's in the bag, it's like kind of like square shape, and that's it. But then you learn in this episode there are other forms of like bread and other styles, and why certain cultures make certain bread on certain days, and this and that. Sky comes in with some Apache flatbread. And the other kids, they try it and they love it. But they was very shocked because they didn't think bread would look kind of like that, And so then he explains, how and why this bread was made and stuff in the Native American culture. And so we get like a little cutscene and we get like a little explanation. First is his grandfather, a real human man for a puppet. And his grandfather is showing you how exactly you make the Apache bread. I remember seeing this years ago. And I'm like, I want to try that. And I tried it. And I think I messed it up. But I know, did I mess up? I don't know. I know I was missing one ingredient. But it was okay, but it didn't necessarily look the way it did in the show. Then he explained why exactly the bread looks the way it does. So then he explains about the Apache Native Americans. They were constantly on the move. And the thing is, because they were always on the move, they had to take all their stuff with them. And they would just hang it over their back on a bag. And they would live in these houses. I might be mispronouncing this. If I do, I'm so sorry. It's called Wiki something. They're like these little huts and everything. And so they would live in that. And then once they were moved, they would like pack the stuff up and leave again. And because they couldn't bring a stove with them, they would just cook on a campfire. And they would have these skillets. And so they would make their bread in the skillet and they would fry it. And that would give it its flat shape and everything. It's really intriguing and interesting. Now, in this episode, Jody comes in and Sky wants her to try the flatbread, and she tells him she can't do it, not until 8 days. But she doesn't explain why. He gets pissed. Like, he is upset because he doesn't understand why she's disrespecting him that way. And the other kids get a little upset as well. So then she goes into the kitchen and she starts counting potatoes for some reason. And the two little animals in there, Nuzzle and Sizzle, and she's talking to them, but of course they don't talk back because they don't want her to know that they can talk. And she began telling the audience that she didn't mean to disrespect Sky. It's just that in 8 days she can't eat nothing and stuff. And it's just that well, she can't eat like other people's like food in 8 days and stuff. But she doesn't tell us, the audience, why either, not until much later. And then she says, maybe she should have just like explained to Sky why that is, and he wouldn't got so upset. And that's a nice little teaching lesson. Yeah, it's nice to explain the reasons why you can't do certain things or you did a certain thing. And that's something people need to learn. And then so throughout that episode, everybody is trying to literally force her to eat the bread. And she's all like, look, can't do it, not until 8 days. But she won't tell them why and everything. And then she finally goes to Sky because she wants to explain to him exactly why she can't do it, and she doesn't mean to hurt his feelings. It's something known as Jewish Passover. And he has no idea what that is. I had no idea what that is. And then she explains. Like 1,000 years ago, her ancestors, the Jewish people, they were slaves to the Egyptian people. Well, this guy named Moses, he decided to free them. And so after that, they traveled and they traveled and they traveled. And of course, when they traveled, they couldn't bring a stove with them. And so they needed something to eat, because if not, they would starve. So when they make their bread like normal people, they let it sit out so it can rise, the yeast can rise and stuff. But they didn't have time because they had to get the heck on out of there. So what they did is when the bread was still flat, they cooked it on the stove and they brought the bread with them. And that bread is called matzah. And it's like a very famous Jewish type bread. And because of that, there's a thing called Passover where, God, I forgot what she said. Either they can't eat for 8 days or they can't eat other people's food for 8 days. But it's one of those two. And so when she told him that, he finally understood and he was no longer mad at her. So then she made him some matzah bread, him and the other kids, and they ate it. Like, this show, man, like, I swear to God, this show was ahead of its time. And it was a little kid show or a preteen show of all things. And it literally taught you some valuable life lessons. You do not see that in young people's TV no more when it comes to, like, say, like cartoons and stuff. Nowadays, it's just wacky stuff like SpongeBob. And it's like, that's why growing up, I loved watching stuff on PBS Kids. It was truly educational. They're still teaching kids to this day with brand new shows and stuff. And, that's why I highly recommend people should let their kids watch PBS Kids. Not only that, but as for the puzzle plays, now it came out on VHS years ago. It never came out on DVD. It's not on no streaming site, but somebody has uploaded every episode to YouTube, so you can check it out. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.